Welcome back to the MyLatinLife podcast. Since 2014, MyLatinLife has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Our guest today is Ladislas Maurice, the wandering investor. We welcome Ladislas to the podcast.
Hey, how you doing, Vance?
Doing good. A man who needs no introduction. It's his second or third, maybe fourth even appearance on the podcast, but second solo episode. We haven't done a solo episode in probably over 2 years now. So let's do it.
Sounds good.
The man with penthouses from Medellin to Nairobi. And what's interesting is you've done so many, like you've lived in San Juan del Sur, Nicaragua. You spent a good amount of time in Ecuador, in Colombia, Paraguay. And then you also have this other range of experience in other parts of the world, in Africa, Sierra Leone now, Eastern Europe, places like Hungary, and everywhere Eastern Europe, the Balkans, Montenegro. You're just a man that can. And what I think is cool about it is the ability to compare and contrast these things as well.
It's, sometimes people ask me, like, how quickly do you make decisions when you buy real estate? Sometimes it'll take a long time, but sometimes I'll make a decision in a minute. Like this penthouse I just bought in Nairobi a few weeks ago. I made the decision literally in 30 seconds. I didn't even do ROI figures. I didn't even try to see how much rental yield I would make. I could just tell it was a really, really good deal, and all factors were pointing towards just buying this thing. And why? It's because of experience I've accumulated across markets. And sometimes you just feel that you have information that the local market doesn't quite understand yet.
And what was that information in this case?
Well, in this particular case, in Nairobi, there's a lot of building going on. There's a huge construction boom. It's really the economic, business, political, and lifestyle hub of East Africa and of Africa in general. And there's a big construction boom with developers coming from all over the world to develop these high rises. But what a lot of these developers fail to do is to develop penthouses. I'd say probably 3/4 or 4/5 of buildings don't design any specific penthouses. So the top floor will be exactly like the other floors, which is just a completely, wasted opportunity. And so I came across this one developer, this Chinese developer. They had just started selling. They hadn't sold anything yet. I go into their showroom with my realtor, and then I look at the sales table where it's empty. They hadn't sold anything. So I confirmed. I was like, "Oh, have you?" They're like, "No, we just started selling yesterday." It's like, okay, that sounds interesting. So I start looking at the project, and they're showing me these like duplex penthouses, and they're East Africa's highest duplex penthouses. And I'm like, damn, that's pretty wild. And the prices are overall compared to similar developments were 5% below market. And I was just like, okay, this is interesting. So I started to make them talk a little bit more, and it turns out that this Chinese developer, it's their first development in Kenya. So what happens is when Kenyans are quite distrustful of new developers because there have been scandals in the past, and people prefer as well to touch and feel, to go to the previous development to see what the quality is like before committing to a new development. So I started to, make them talk a bit more. And then it turned out that they're a huge developer from China, right? They're not just some random developer. Because what happened in Africa is a lot of Chinese had like textile factories or, road construction business, or, they had a mine, and then they invented themselves property developers. So the building quality wasn't quite there. But these guys are a huge developer from China that are doing their first foray into Africa. So they need this first project to be a success. They realize that, the market doesn't quite understand this. So they're trying to sell their stuff. And they decided, okay, we'll be 5% cheaper than everyone, but then in the end, we'll deliver better quality because this project will be our launch pad. And for them, it's a tiny project. I looked at some of their previous developments in China, and these things are like hundreds of acres, like massive, massive developments in China. So for them just to come and make one building 30 stories high is really not much. So they don't really even need to make money on this one. It's their Essentially, it's going to be their showcase. It's going to be really one big showroom for their next developments and their other projects into Africa. So, looking at all this, then, you talk to the lawyer, you make sure that you structure things in a way that's pretty safe. And then I just said, look, I want the best penthouse you have. That's it. What's the most expensive you have? This one. Okay, I'll take this one. Decision made in my mind as they were showing me this development in 30 seconds. I was already sold because I know I'll be able to flip this like very easily.
And where were they showing you it? You were visiting on the ground in Nairobi?
Yeah, yeah. Some showroom, like their showroom. They had just opened their showroom. It still wasn't
And were
even
the
really ready.
Chinese builders, were they there? Were they wining and dining you? Did they take you for hot pot?
No, they didn't take me for a hot pot. I had other Chinese developers take me for a hot pot, but not those guys.
Because I'm just curious how the deal gets done.
With the Chinese, it's pretty straightforward. People, I don't know, like Westerners like to talk a lot of crap about doing business with the Chinese. You just like the biggest thing is that yes doesn't mean yes. It's not because the Chinese tells you yes that it means yes. It means yes, he heard you. You just need to understand that whenever they tell you yes, it just means they heard you. So you just need to just work through that, and things take a bit longer, but ultimately, things work out. I've never really had any negative experiences with dealing with Chinese people in business, as long as you have that understanding that yes doesn't mean yes. It means just I heard you. Um, and then you can cut deals relatively quickly with them. They're efficient. They're efficient people.
So interesting. I mean, you're a man with, in one way you could phrase it where it's pretty risky. I mean, it's pre-construction, new Chinese developer in Africa, frontier market. It's like the big three of riskiness in one way, but you found a way to navigate that.
Let me add another one. They don't have all their permits.
Exactly.
But you know what? The Chinese know how to navigate Africa. They know how to do business in Africa. They are truly impressive. I mean, you can go into any small town in Africa and there'll be a China shop there with some Chinese people that don't speak any English. They don't speak any French. They barely speak the local language, and they have a bunch of local employees, and somehow they're making it like the type of stuff Europeans are just not capable of.
They're good businessmen. That's definitely true.
Very adaptable.
So, do you feel like, in a way, it's coming full circle how you had this African experience in your 20s? You were working for Nestle, kind of famously, you talk about. And then it seems like you left Africa for a number of years. And then now you've kind of come back, sort of like call it a decade later, and you're excited once again. Or how do you think about it?
Look, I mean, all roads lead to Africa. Ultimately, we are in a world where there's just so much capital flowing around, with capital not knowing where to go in many cases. And Africa is one of the last places where you can buy businesses at very sound valuations that have moat around them, that are growing, that have very low debt levels. It's And that has a lot of demographic pressure, positive demographic pressure behind. That's just attractive. And then when you look at real estate, real estate everywhere in the world has become quite expensive. There aren't that many markets in the world that are cheap. Sure, the Paraguay is cheap, Ecuador is cheap, um, Colombia to some extent is really relatively affordable. But you look at Europe now. Europe has just become quite expensive. North America is quite expensive. I mean, Mexico is expensive. A lot of Latin America has become expensive. Asia is typically quite expensive as well. Places like Turkey went through the roof. There aren't really, you can't say the real estate is cheap in the Gulf. And then you look at places in some places in Africa, because some of them are very expensive. Some places like Nairobi are just, dirt cheap from a real estate point of view for such a dynamic place. So, you look around and it's just hard to not have Africa in your portfolio to some extent.
Hard to disagree with that. I would love to do a bit of a LatAm versus Africa comparison because you know both markets well. You know pretty much all the world real estate markets, which is crazy, but specifically LatAm versus Africa, which are kind of like the two final frontiers in a lot of ways. You know, I think there's still a lot of opportunity and undiscovered stuff in places like Brazil, but um, how do you think about the LatAm versus Africa when you think about I don't know how it applies to real estate, yields, risk, zoning, things like that, financing.
I'm not going to have a clear answer for you here, Vance. Look, LATAM is huge. Markets are so different. You compare Uruguay with Ecuador, right? Nothing in common. Same thing, compare Kenya with Congo, Kinshasa. Again, nothing in common. Some of these markets are expensive. Other markets are cheap. Some markets are very liquid. Other markets are illiquid. Some markets have capital controls. Other markets don't. So some economies are doing well, others are not. So it's just hard to answer this question.
So it's
When
more
it,
country by country
yeah,
than continent versus continent.
I would even argue that the difference between African countries, I mean, not just culturally but business wise, is greater than the difference between Latin American countries, both culturally and from a business point of view.
That makes sense. I mean, they're not exactly united by language or shared history necessarily. So that makes sense. Part of it. It must be nice investing in sort of a what's it called, like a common law country, right? Versus civil law. Common law is typically a little bit better for asset protection.
Eh, Not necessarily. I mean, look, it's the sort of country where you just hope not to go to court, like Latin America. You just hope things work out, right?
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And how do you think about maintaining such a diversified portfolio? You know, you have real estate in so many countries. How do you manage it all?
Look, property managers. Just find competent property managers, and if your property manager is good, it's not that much work at all. You just have decisions once in a while. Hey, we need to replace this. Are you fine spending $800 on a couch? It's like sure. Um, if you have a bad property manager, then it's a problem. Or if you have a mediocre property manager, which is often the case in markets like that. Look, it's one of the advantages of investing in places like Western Europe or North America is you can go anywhere in the US, any small town, and there'll be a competent property manager who will know how to make decisions, rational decisions. You won't need to micromanage them. You won't need to manage the property manager. Um, Once you start venturing into LATAM, often you end up managing the property manager. So the key is finding a property manager that you don't need to manage and who can manage himself. But when you do, it's all good.
Easier said than done. And then I'm curious about kind of when you're doing this at a small scale and you really just have one, maybe two properties per country, and you end up with a portfolio of like one property in five, six different countries. Some might argue it would be better to focus on one or two countries, and then it might be easier to use the power of leverage and you know using sort of the synergies there. How do you think about that? Maybe being almost over diversified. Do you just do it for the fun of it partly, and that makes it worth it, or because you got to fly around and how do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have to fly around to see my properties, to be honest with you. I really don't. So that's one. I mean, some properties I've had for 10 years, I haven't seen in 10 years. I'll just ask once a year, hey, can you send me a video of like the outside and the inside of the house? And it's fine. So it's not, people tend to be a bit emotional around real estate that they own, about around their rental properties. They really don't need to be that emotional. You don't need to fly around to look at your real estate. That's one. Unless you have major issues and the property manager, you can't fire him and you're trying to find a new one and you can't find, like, sometimes these things happen, but generally speaking you can avoid that. In terms of concentration versus diversification, I mean, I agree with you. It's just a lot more efficient to have everything. Hell, actually, you should have everything in the US. It's more liquid. Often the returns are quite decent. You have access to leverage. It's easy to manage. Um, the point here is diversification in a world where you really don't know in which direction the world is going, and things are a little crazy. Um, and this helps me sleep very well at night, knowing that I'm very, very well diversified. Is it the most efficient way of operating? No, but personally, it's my investment style that I'm comfortable with. And at the end of the day, people just need to make a decision, like, what's their investment style. Maybe they're happy having most of their stuff in the US and then concentrating on one or two foreign markets, and that's it. And that's perfectly fine. If anything, it's actually recommended. The way I do things, by being very like spread out across the world, um, is for most people, let's be honest here, Vance, for most people, that's not appropriate.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it is. I think you're right that it is easier to manage than people give it credit for. I'll tweet about things like this. I'll be like, I'll make a tweet like, have one property in North America, one South America, one Europe, one Africa, and you get these comments. They're like, this is the dumbest idea ever. But there's like a flag theory angle to it. There is a lot of arguments to it, and especially if it can be sort of turnkey for sure.
But I am adding more concentration in some markets for sure. There's some markets where I don't talk about every property I buy. I mean, let's be clear. I do want some level of privacy in what I do.
Hmm.
But there are definitely some markets where I say, hey, I bought something, but actually I bought a lot more. Um, so, I don't just randomly have like just one property typically. I do in some countries where I do randomly have one property, but that's typically not my objective.
Yeah, because every country, it's like you got to have a tax ID, you got to have a bank account. It's like a whole parallel, separate structure in a way. It's like a separate life almost.
Or not, depending depending on the country.
It's crazy. Okay, and hey, randomly, you mentioned you invest in the U.S. if you could, or that's one way to do it. Where would you invest in the U.S.? What do you have like a region you find interesting?
I, find someone else to talk about U.S. real estate. I'm not your guy.
Okay, okay, fair enough. Well, one thing I did want to mention, I probably should have mentioned this in the beginning of the episode, is how influential your videos actually are. Um, Dude, like when you drop a video now on YouTube, like it has a lot of influence. When you put out the Paraguay video with Laszlo about the film option for the
Mhm.
Suase visa, had like multiple people hitting me up, and they're like, "Did you hear about the new film option?" Like it like takes on a life of its own. It's crazy.
Yeah, I have to be careful. Like some markets, I won't even talk about where I'm invested, because they're just too small. And I know that if I released a video on that market, it would just distort it.
And even kind of in the world of visas, right? You're making quite a bit of an impact, even just in the past month with Sierra Leone and the way that you're filming it. You're like standing outside the migrations office or whatever, and you're taking like a social media approach with it. That's obviously pretty influential, I think, in the world of CBI.
Yeah, I mean, people are, man, like I don't understand why Westerners are still running around buying, St. Kitts and Grenada and like St. Lucia passports. It's ridiculous. Unless you're a US person looking to renounce, let's be clear, unless you're a US person looking to renounce and you want a decent passport, um, if you want to keep your Western passport, which already gives you all the travel privileges you need, like what you're looking for is geopolitical diversification. What you're looking for is access to growth markets. You're not going to get that from a Caribbean passport. So, and I just see all these people, there's like, oh, you can't do anything with an African passport. It's like, actually, when you have a Sierra Leonean passport, you have full access to ECOWAS, which is the equivalent of the European Union for West Africa. You can travel visa free all across West Africa, countries where you as a Westerner typically need a visa. Trying to get a visa for Nigeria, for Ghana is complicated. It's annoying. You have to go to embassies physically, and you often don't get treated very well. And now you can essentially, as a local, fly over West Africa. You can get residency in all these countries very easily with just one form because you're West African. I mean, this is huge. You have full access to all of these countries that are experiencing real GDP growth of 5 to 6% on a yearly basis, and that are booming demographically, and they're packed with natural resources. So, do they have their issues? Absolutely. Are they volatile? For sure. But they are a complete counterbalance to your Western passport, much more so than a Caribbean passport. So, I'll post about African passports, and people are just like, "Woo, woo, woo." Like, it's just, people just don't understand. It's, being European or North American with the West African passport or an African passport in general is very useful. And not just for you, but for your descendants later on. When in 50 years' time, every single country is in demographic decline. I mean, I just tweeted a few days ago, this thing went viral showing that the fertility rate in Bogota at 0.91 per woman is lower than the fertility rate in Tokyo at 0.99. I mean, that's insane. The whole world is heading into demographic decline, except for Africa. So in 30, 40 years' time, once this reality starts to hit home really, and it starts to show in the numbers, because right now it's still too early to have an impact in terms of total population in most countries, guess where companies are going to start investing more? Guess where capital is going to flow? Guess which countries are going to start to be more protective of who's entering their country and doing business in their country? And you will have bought access to these markets as a local for generations for just 100K. But instead, people are running around getting a St. Lucia passport for 250. That will really never give them anything. So I think that, buying an African citizenship now is absolutely a generational opportunity. And that's why we got the licenses for a few of these African countries. And that's why each African country that launches a citizenship by investment, that's why we're getting the license, because we absolutely believe in the long-term trajectory of Africa.
Yeah, you're very uniquely positioned. You've had Wandering Investor for what, like 5 years now. So you've already built up a lot of our audience and everything. You have the Africa experience, you have the social media, perfect storm because three new African CBIs launched this year. You had Sierra Leone, you had Sao Tome, and then Botswana announced, but it's not live yet. So two live ones and a third one on the way. And you're just like almost the go-to guy in a lot of ways for this.
It's our objective.
It's like, yep.
That's people don't understand Africa. People don't understand it. They're being dismissive of it. They just look at the bad news. But there are a lot of good news coming out of Africa. A lot of good news. But it's gonna be peppered with very bad news, that's for sure.
What do you think about this Sao Tome program?
It's cheap. 100,000 for a family of four. Sure, why not? I mean, what's the use case? It doesn't give you West Africa access. It's not. So there are two essentially European unions, if you can put it this way, and actually four. in Africa.
So, yeah,
You've you've
the blocks. Yeah.
the different blocks
Uh-huh.
in these blocks. If your country is part of one of those blocks, you can travel visa free to all the other countries, and typically you can move to the other countries fairly easily. There's the West African bloc. There's which Sierra Leone gives access to. There's the Central African bloc, which is more like Congo, Brazzaville, Gabon, Cameroon,
Sao
Central African
Tome.
Republic, all that. Sao Tome is not part of it, unfortunately.
I bel anyway, keep going.
They're in Central Africa technically, but they're not part of that group. Then there's the SADC in Southern Africa, and then there's the Eastern Africa bloc.
Mhm.
Sao Tome isn't really part of any of these blocks. So,
According to
from
Wikipedia, it's part of the Economic Community of Central African States.
is it? I don't think
Yeah.
so. No, it's not. I need to verify this. Um, I mean, if it is, that's actually good news.
Yeah, it is
That
good
takes away
news.
the whole argument, and that's a new marketing argument. That's a new marketing point. So
So you
thanks for.
do Sierra Leone for the ECOWAS, you do Sao Tome for the Central African States. You get two blocks for
I thought I had verified this a few times. If you've just proven me wrong here, Vance, thank you. I'm happy to be wrong because
well,
that's a good
if you
marketing
pull
angle.
up Wikipedia Economic Community of Central African States, it's on there. It says they're on the ECCAS, but they're not on SADC or but yeah, it says it's on there.
Okay, I'll double check that.
And that would sort of create a relationship with Angola, Burundi, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon. So pretty
That would be
interesting.
positive. Yeah, that's positive.
Mhm.
So I'll take that back. So if it is the case, then it gives you access to Central Africa. This is exciting. I mean, Central Africa, to be fair, is the roughest of all of Africa. To be fair, it's like definitely the toughest place to do business in all of Africa. So I'm not sure most people are suited for that. But yeah, it's a call option on on things later on.
Yeah, I like the idea of economic blocks in general, and I think sort of underrated way of thinking about things, right? In terms of trying to maybe get a passport from each economic block around the world. Do you think about things a bit like that?
That's certainly how I think. Sure, absolutely,
Like trying to get one
absolutely.
from the EU, one from
Yeah,
Latin America,
I'm
maybe.
much more interested in economic blocks than political blocks.
Hmm. Are they different though?
Sometimes.
Like Mercosur, it's like economic and sort of a political
Hmm.
bloc.
Hmm. Yeah, sometimes they're aligned, sometimes they're not. But their real utility as an individual conducting business is typically economic more than political.
So I wanted to talk a bit more about maybe just some stories from some of your real estate processes or just travels around the world. Maybe we could start in Latin America. Any stories with the transaction process on your Medellin penthouse or any of the Colombia ones? Has that been smooth or any fun stories there?
No, transactions are smooth. They're slow. I mean, they're slow. I mean, I bought some. I mean, in Nicaragua, I think I've been waiting for over a year for title deed, or a year and a half. It's like moving forward, but it's slow. So it just depends on the countries. But generally speaking, as long as you hire a good lawyer, don't cheap out on the lawyer, you'll be fine. Like your transaction will be smooth. Just be patient.
Is that unique to Latin America? How it's like you buy a place, you can move in, but you don't actually get the title or the titulo for like a year and a half? Is that a Latin America thing?
I mean, Latin America is just so slow. It's just so slow. Um, in Montenegro, I've had to wait up to a year for a title deed. It can be quite slow in Montenegro sometimes. In Africa as well, it can be slow. But just Latin America is just reliably slow. Like Mexico is also super slow, like 8 months, a year. You can wait for your title deed. Um, but ultimately, it doesn't really matter that much unless you're looking to operate a quick flip.
Yeah, I think it's called the in Latin America they call it the claudastro, if I'm not mispronouncing that, and that's kind of like the how the title deeds are managed, and it's very slow in Latin America.
Yeah, everything's slow in Latin America.
So coming back to just like being, the social media side of things and how you run your business, you're one of the few guys that's actually very well diversified. Once again, that I guess that's a theme with you between Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Like your most people don't actually have the Instagram popping. I certainly don't, but yours is like 30,000 plus on Instagram too. So the type of content that you're doing, I think these real estate walkthroughs and so forth seem to do well on Instagram.
Yeah, we started Reels earlier this year. I wasn't really focusing on Instagram at all, and then I just asked my team to just do a bit more Reels, and it's been doing relatively well.
So did that come later? What are you at now?
I think we're at like 40,000.
40,000.
Yeah, 40,000.
40.7.
Yeah,
Wow.
we just had like one random Italy Sicily reel that went completely viral. So I'd say probably half of the followers are from like a single Sicily reel, which
No.
is not my target audience. So yeah,
The best one is I watched some of that when you're in Sicily. Actually, I want to know what happened here. And you're like, I think you're asking the guy like through the window. You're like, "What's the key to longevity?" Like, wow. And he was like, "Meat once a week." And you're like, "Wait, is the meat once a week like for health or because people are poor or like what's going on?" And there was no like clear answer.
apparently it wasn't a poverty thing. I just didn't understand. I thought he'd say meat every day. Turned
Yeah,
out we meat only once a week. Yeah,
yeah, once twice a week. And it
I,
honestly made me step back and think. I was like, shit, am I eating too much meat? Should I be doing like 3 days
yeah.
a week or something?
It was contradicting all the X accounts I follow, which is like red meat, red meat.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, but I was like, that's low, dude. 1 day a week.
Yeah, but yeah,
Okay, so tell me a bit more about the Instagram because you pretty much have one of the most popping Instagrams in basically all of investment migration. Are you even on there at all? Does your team just do the whole thing, or do
yeah.
you
I'm on
like
there. Yeah,
enjoy
yeah.
it?
All the,
Or
like the stories. I post the stories. I
hmm
post the stories. Like my team will do the reels, but the stories when I travel and I'm like giving updates and stuff, I do that myself with my phone. Just upload as I go. I mean, it's kind of fun. I treat it as a game, right? It's a bit of a game.
in what way?
I don't take Instagram very seriously. I just do what I want to do. I have my team do reels, but in terms of stories, I just kind of do what I want to do, what I feel like. Okay, a bit like X, right? It's a game. Like you were saying earlier, giving an example of like tweets that you do that are just kind of like I mean, you have one property in North America, one in Latin America, one in Africa. you, you're laughing at it yourself as you write it because people are just going to get triggered. It's a game.
And so I guess there's kind of multiple formats on Instagram where you have there's photos and then there's the videos and then the stories and then comments. Are you like thinking about the mix of the formats there or what works well or
Yeah, so we do pictures. We don't really do occasionally, but not really that much. We just do reels and stories.
okay, and it's basically all clips from the a lot from the real estate walkthroughs, or
Yeah.
you'll nail someone down for like a coffee interview at like a table, which you do a lot of. And I imagine, with a lot of these people, it's like what their first time getting on camera, or they're not as used to it as you are. What's that experience like? You try to coach it'll be like a real estate agent in Turkey or something, right? And they're not used to this a little bit. Do you try to coach them a little bit?
Oh, for sure. And try to coach them, like tell them, look, we're not trying to trick you into saying anything bad and then make fun of you. It's fine. Like if we can do a few repeats until you're comfortable, and then most people are fine. Also, when it's kind of like sit downs, you'll notice often there's a beer
Hmm.
because it just helps people with the interviews, helps them be a bit more relaxed. So if there's a glass of wine or a beer, people are just more relaxed for interviews.
How do you approach it, or like or invite someone to do one? Do you have a way of inviting them?
I don't know. I just ask. I, like Vance. I don't overthink things. I don't. I really don't overthink things. When it comes to especially X and Instagram, I don't overthink it. I just do what I enjoy doing. It's just fun.
Mhm.
I, that's it.
So do you feel like the fundamental pillar is the YouTube channel and the YouTube format? Because that's really where you mostly got your start.
Yeah, YouTube for sure. YouTube.
And I imagine you've updated your equipment over time. I feel like you use a DJI now. Tell me about how you've like updated your, production quality over time.
Yeah, DJI. DJI. Yeah, I just use Chinese stuff now. It's like Apple and Chinese stuff. That's all I do. Apple and DJI. That's it. That's the recipe. Don't look any further.
So there's the pocket one that's like sort of like a vertical one, and then
Yeah.
there's the action, which is like a
No, I
like a
don't use the
GoPro
action.
cube.
I just use the iPhone. I use the iPhone and the little pocket one. I travel light. I don't go around with big cameras and stuff like that.
Okay, so you use the pocket. It's like the Osmo
Yeah,
Pocket or whatever,
yeah,
and it's sort of like it's like on a dongle type of thing.
yeah. It's fun. It's I found out about it from what's his face, the dude who's always in. I think you interviewed him once. He's always in Brazil. That American dude.
Oh, American in Brazil.
The American in Brazil.
Passport Pappy?
No. Oh, Bold Perceptions. We were hanging out
Oh,
in.
Nick. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
Nick. Yeah, we were hanging out, and then he showed me this thing, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." And then that's how I came across it, and then I bought one.
Okay, because some people I've asked, like I was asking Raphael, wealthy expat, I was like, should I get the pocket or the action? And he's like the pocket kind of sucks, or I don't know, but uh,
I travel all the time. I need stuff that just like fits literally in my pocket.
and these days you can just film on an iPhone Pro Max as long as you have like a mic. I feel like that's the most important thing, right? Is having that
I mean,
Bluetooth
my
mic
main
thing.
camera is for my whole YouTube is my iPhone.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the main camera.
I think it definitely makes people feel more comfortable when you're doing like an apartment tour or something, and you're just doing your iPhone as opposed to like this crazy gimbal thing.
Yeah, yeah, something. Yeah, because if you come with all the lights and all this stuff, people just get a little like starstruck for sure.
Yeah, or they're just like, "What is that thing?" The DJI.
And then in some cultures, especially in Africa, you want to be discreet when you film because they hate cameras.
Right.
So, you'll look at a lot of YouTube travel channels and people will be like, I'm never going back to Africa. People are terrible. They're mean. It's like, no, they're fine. They just hate being on camera without like their approval. Um, Culturally, there's a few reasons culturally why a lot of the tribes don't like that.
Why is it? Is
Um,
it a black magic thing? Or what's going on?
I don't really want to go into details here,
Okay.
but it's it's a very sensitive topic in much of Africa, like filming.
It
And
is,
so a
yeah,
lot of these YouTubers just go in there, they film, and then they get assaulted and they
yeah. They
get
all get
robbed.
slapped up at the market.
Yeah, yeah, they get beat up, they get their stuff stolen, and then they think that's Africa. It's like, if you're just like walking normally, like nothing would have happened to you. But as soon as you started whipping a camera and like filming everyone around you, that's when you had a mark. So that's why the little DJI is good because I can just kind of walk discreetly, film, and then, you know, often people don't quite realize what I'm doing.
Mhm. How do you think about this format of content that you do? Because it is kind of unique. Like there are obviously real estate YouTube channels, but the way you do it, I feel like is quite a little bit unique, especially how you're going on site to all these countries. You know, you're finding these unique people to speak to. You're recording these often long videos, often like 20 minutes plus. How do you think? Do you feel like you sort of like coined a format, or if you found a format, you tried different formats, you found what worked for you?
I didn't really try different formats. I just did that because that's what I do. I'm literally just putting on camera what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's there. I mean, there's no secret formula. I didn't come like try to figure out, oh, how am I going to tackle the market? Like, what's my? It's just I just did what I do. That's it, and I enjoy doing it. And that's the same thing across my different social media. I'll do a lot of shit posting on Twitter because it's fun. Is it the best thing for business? Probably not. Should I be doing? Probably not. But it's Twitter. I just go with it.
I
People,
love the
people
way you do it, man. It's like a very like nonchalant style. You're just like, yep, we're here. You know, it's going to be about $2,000 per square meter, and like it's very, I don't know, it's very nonchalant the way you do it.
Cool. Well, thanks. Glad that you like it.
Do you feel like now you almost have to live up to the image of, as we sort of get to wrapping up? Do you feel like the wandering investor? It's almost like a character now that you have to live up to, or how do you feel about the weight on your shoulders of being the wandering investor?
Man, I'm not a teenager. I don't feel like I need to live up to anything. you know, um, I'm just doing what I love doing. I get to travel with my family, doing a lot of it. It's fun. I enjoy it. That's it. People just overthink things too much. People overthink too much, like when they go onto social media and all that. Just don't overthink it too much.
Just put it out there.
Put it out there, be yourself, and hopefully, being yourself is interesting enough, right? And have decent execution, and that's all I would say.
And what I'm hearing also is like done is better than perfect, because I feel like a lot of people would like nitpick all the cuts, or like, just like axe videos if they think it didn't come out well, or just be super judgmental of their own stuff, or critical,
I'm
or
And I think that's a key skill that I learned because I spent most of my 20s in Africa working for Nestle, and it was like a lot of it in operations. Um, those are markets where you can't get everything perfect. If you try to be a perfectionist in Africa or in Latin America, you'll go insane. You will go absolutely insane. So I absolutely live by the 80-20% rule.
hmm.
I just try to get 80% right. That's it. 80% go, 80% go. And that's not just for my business here, but for everything in life, really. When you spend that much time in emerging markets, you cannot aim for perfection, nor should you.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I would agree with that, and especially as a content creator, I can agree with that as well. Case in point, how when we had you on the roundtable, we lost your audio, and I was like, "All right, we got to put out the roundtable anyway."
Yeah, sorry about that. That's terrible. My A bad Swiss connection. Can you believe that? A bad Swiss connection.
No worries, no worries. And one last kind of funny thing as we get to wrapping up, you caught a little bit of flack because the you showed the Nairobi penthouse, but like the action figures all like fell over, and it looked like a bit of a scene. Did that? What happened with that? Is that all
Yeah, the
resolved
little
now?
the little characters on the roof got glued up. But yeah, there's some really hilarious comments out there. People were like joking about Westgate 2.0, and yeah, people were quick to notice.
Yeah. And speaking of, last kind of question, do you get noticed now in person, like at the airport, stuff like that?
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
knowing you, I'm sure you hate it.
It's fun. Like, honestly, everyone I've met this way that comes up to me like, "Hey, are you the guy from YouTube?" Everyone's been cool. because like again, the channel is very focused on investing, on residency, citizenships. It's ultimately quite a nerdy topic,
Yeah.
you know. It's not just some travel vlog. So there's a lot of filtering that goes on and with respect to the type of people that watch this content, and people who recognize me or people who probably watched a lot of me.
Hmm.
So they're really into the topic. So invariably, everyone's been really cool. Like I've never had a negative experience in terms of someone recognizing me and being super weird or creepy because like my kids are around, or everyone's been really cool. So I wouldn't say it's been negative. If anything, it's been really cool because I've met some really nice people along the way and interesting.
Nice, man. Well, we got to meet up soon. You're one of the few that I haven't met yet. So we got to make it happen one way or another.
Yeah, inshallah, as we say in Europe.
Yes, yes. Well, Ladislas, the future king of African CBIs, thank you for joining us, man. Any final words for the audience?
I love your content, man. I love your content. Big fan.
Thank you. Likewise. Um, Thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. We'll put a link in the description to the YouTube, Twitter, all that. Um, that's it. Thanks to the audience for joining us. Please subscribe to the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to this. Please subscribe, leave a review. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Ladislas. You won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.